Hunt Palmer. Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Holding down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on a Monday. Hope your weekend was a good one. A lot of baseball, a little bit of rain, a lot of lightning. LSU and Oregon State going to finish this thing off today one way or another. We'll be with you until 3 o'clock. I know that they're about to throw the first pitch over there, so I'd be surprised if there were a ton of y'all locked in at the moment. But it is what it is on this Monday. We'll keep you posted on some scores. We are going to talk a little bit about the weekend's festivities on the Diamond here for the next couple of minutes. But we are going to transition out of baseball. If you want baseball, you got it on Eagle 98.1 or, of course, on your Watch ESPN app. We're going to talk some Saints. Cam Jordan, a Hall of Famer? That's a question Mickey Loomis posed last week. I want to chat about that a little bit. Matthew Bruni is going to come on a little bit later. He's part of the On3 team over there at the Bengal Tiger. Going to talk to us a little about what Haley Van Lith did over the weekend and what that means for LSU women's basketball. Got Shea Dixon coming up at 2 o'clock to talk some recruiting. Big weekend for LSU football, and so we'll get to that. Got an MLB mock draft that does not include Dylan Cruz or Paul Skeens as the first pick. We'll roll through that as well, and we'll get you caught up on the entirety of the weekend in college baseball, as it was a crazy one, as you might imagine, during regional play. But LSU wins a massive baseball game yesterday that was marred by a 3-hour lightning delay, but LSU came out and got it done. And it was on the back of some guys you might imagine and some guys you probably wouldn't have, especially not a couple months ago. I'll be real honest. Musso and I did a preview, not a podcast, but a YouTube video before the season started. And we went for about an hour, kicking around the entire roster, lineups, defense, freshmen, older guys, pitching staff, bullpens, weekend rotation, whole deal. We may not have mentioned Hayden Travinski's name once. We may not have mentioned Cade Beloso's name once. They were, to me, non-factors entering the year. And now all of a sudden you look up and they are squarely in the middle of one of the most potent orders in college baseball. And last night came up with some absolutely monster swings. I mean, Travinski hit the ball well over the bleachers in left field. He lets you know when he gets one, and he did. And then Beloso followed that up with another missile into the seats in right. And it's not like these guys just showed up this weekend. Travinski now in limited times got 9 home runs on the year. Beloso's got 12 jacks. They've been good for Beloso's case the entire year, and for Travinski now over a month. Since that huge swing in Oxford, he's been in there and been awesome. Josh Pearson, kind of a forgotten man. 6 weeks into the season. Kind of lost his spot. Paxton Kling's out there. Jared Jones is playing some. That moves Trey Morgan to the outfield. There's not a spot. Doesn't quit or go into the portal or pout. Just whenever you need me, coach. Comes up. Huge swing last night. And, of course, it's always really nice to see Dylan Cruz. LSU got 10 hits last night. They hit 4 home runs. Yeah, they left the bases loaded 3 times. And, yes, that's frustrating. And, yes, you can immediately point to that and say why they're not scoring as many runs as they could be because they're leaving men on base. I will continue to beat this drum and continue to beat this drum and continue to beat this drum until the season's over. LSU's offense is really good, and you can't work on getting hits with runners on base. You just have to send good hitters up there, and they've got to be good hitters and get hits. That's the great chance in baseball. Again, I've never seen a guy who was a .420 hitter with nobody on base and hit 180 with a 60% strikeout rate when he got guys on base. I've never seen a guy who just was a terrible hitter, but you put a guy on second base and 2 outs, all of a sudden, he's Tony Gwynn. You send good hitters up there, they're going to be good hitters more often than not. I wish Tommy White wasn't swinging at balls in his eyes. I wish Trey Morgan was coming through with a big swing with the bases loaded. That's not happening at the level that it needs to right now, but it's not something you can work on. You can throw better curveballs. You can try to hit for more power. As far as when you get the hits, you just got to hope. And LSU right now is not doing that quite at the level we'd like. They're still creating a ton of traffic. They're getting on base in all these games, and that's the first order of business. And if you need to hit 4 home runs, then hit 4 home runs. But I've buried kind of the lead here. I wanted to lead with those guys because of how cool the story is, but the real development last night was the performance of Thatcher Hurd. You know the story by now. UCLA, looks like a star, injured, supposed to be a weekend rotation guy, wasn't in the weekend rotation to start, had a rough outing against Southern. Then you go to Austin. He throws the ball pretty well. You come back in a game against Butler, and he's phenomenal. You think, okay, he's found it. And then he goes out there early in SEC play, Texas A&M, Arkansas, Tennessee, and it goes very, very poorly. And he pulled him out of the weekend rotation. And he wasn't even great out of the bullpen. You're going, this experiment may be over. This may not be a guy they can count on. But the stuff's never been an issue. It's always been 93 to 95. He can always spin a breaking ball. It's a consistency, the execution of pitches. He hadn't been doing it all year. Now, over the last month, he's found it. And last night was a corner turner for Thatcher Hurd. That breaking ball was disgusting last night. That's a good lineup for Oregon State. A good lineup. And Thatcher Hurd got ahead of him and just hammered him with those breaking balls. 5 innings, 12 strikeouts. That's the guy we thought we had back in the fall. And if he's that good, and you know what you got in schemes, and Floyd was good last night before the Lightning came, you've all of a sudden now got the makings of a pitching staff that might make a run. Now, keep in mind, this thing could all be over 8 hours from now. I know that. You know that. We don't think that's going to happen, but it could be. So it's odd to have that type of conversation right now as they're about to play a game. But that's a difference maker, to have his ability to throw a lot of innings and to dominate at that level. And oh, by the way, LSU's going to field a baseball team next year. He feels like it's going to be a pretty big piece of it. But last night, that was awesome. And we, of course, like everybody is, when the rain comes and the lightning comes and you realize that the 2 starters are going to have to be done. Lafferty was already done. They were bringing in a left-hander when they pulled him off the field, and you knew Floyd wasn't going to be able to come back. Well, there's a decision for Jay. You're losing the game. It's 1-0. What are you going to do? And he decided, okay, I'm going to go to my best guy. I know we're down right now. I know I would have liked him to have started the next game that we play, whether it's to win the regional or to stay alive. He's got experience there, and he's one of the guys that can lengthen. But we got to win this game. This is the game that's important to win. And as I tweeted out last night, I said, look, if LSU had 100 poker chips, they're pushing 70 of them in right here, bringing Hurd in. Doesn't mean you're toast if it doesn't go well and you lose and you burn him. Like, that doesn't mean your season's over. But you can start to get bullied by that bigger pot, right? And he had the guts to go to him, and he was fantastic. And then the question is, okay, Hurd's up to 99 pitches. It was right at 100 in Hoover. Is that it for him, or do you want to send him back out to finish this game? And Jay Johnson pushed the button to go to the freshman. Shortstop. Turned pitcher. Turned closer. And Guidry was phenomenal. Played with a little bit of fire, but that breaking ball was really good. And for Floyd, Hurd, and Guidry to go out there against that team, which is really good on offense, and to strike out 19 guys, that's stuff. That is stuff. I thought Oregon State came out patient. They were making Ty Floyd throw a lot of pitches. They just simply weren't swinging it very much. And the strike zone's tight. We all know that. And it was tightening. And Floyd stuck with it, stayed in there. Not a great start, obviously. Bazana gets you. Felt a little wobbly at times, but he was nails. The composure and the mental toughness that LSU showed last night was phenomenal. It's unfortunate that the weather kind of compromised a few things. It compromised your advantages as having the best starting pitching. It compromised the crowd a little bit. May have cooled things down for an Oregon State team that's not used to playing in the hot and the humid. But LSU fought through it. They've had some adverse circumstances through 2 days, and they've found a way to get to this point. And now you've got to find a way to win one more ball game. And you've got significantly more pitching and better pitching than the team you're going to see for the next 9 or 18 innings. And they put themselves in position. It's all about just finishing the deal. I'm sitting there watching this Ole Miss documentary from last year. We're right in the middle of that, just the volatile nature of what we're watching. And so, look, I'm inside now. I got no windows. I'm locked in, and so I can't tell you what the weather looks like. I did take one peek right before the show started out towards the box. We're pretty close. We're about a mile from the box, 2 miles from the box. And it looked like there was some ominous skies to the southwest. But this time of year in this part of the country, who knows what's going to be the case. Seems like they started on time. As far as I know, haven't seen that they didn't. Now I'm looking at my screen, and I'm looking at a still shot of downtown. So we'll see. LSU and Oregon State, we're going to kind of shift off that, talk some football, talk some recruiting, talk some Saints. But we'll update you as the scores happen. If you're hanging out with us here on this Monday, certainly appreciate it if you are. Got Casey Gaines and Jacob Beth here with me until 3 o'clock. Come back. We're talking Saints. Is Cam Jordan a Hall of Famer? Mickey Loomis seems to think so. That's next.
This is on Palmer. Our listeners fire up their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hey, it's Matt Musso. Join me Monday through Friday for your daily update on LSU baseball with Musso at the Box, presented by New Orleans Flooring. Wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, Google, and check out New Orleans Flooring. 2 locations, Metairie and Prairieville, or NOLAFlooring.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust Poll of the Day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, live at lunch on Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the Poll of the Day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
Turn my music high, 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 yeah.
You don't know what you're doing.
Sure I do. I'm from the streets where the hood can swallow on me. Bullets will follow on me. There's so much that you can run the slalom. The cops comb this top to bottom. They say that we are prone to violence, but it's home sweet home. With personalities clashing, chrome meets chrome. Prices up and down like it's Wall Street.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all of that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
All right, let's say ah.
Where'd my spotlight go?
Super weird, but we can take care of it.
Get in and get better at Patient Plus.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready.
Musso, join us for Monday's AFR presented by Relief Windows. Matt is back from vacation. We're recapping the Baton Rouge Regional, and the Saints hit the field for the final week of OTAs. It's Monday's AFR, 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
So I saw this quote from Mickey Loomis, and it got me thinking a little bit, as quotes sometimes do. And you realize Loomis is, generally speaking, pretty tight-lipped. He doesn't say a lot. He's not in front of the media a ton, and even when he is, it's just very kind of cliched and pretty vanilla, quite frankly, which is fine. Just do your job. I don't need fireworks in the press conference. It's great for us, but in terms of doing your job, it's irrelevant to me. But he was on SiriusXM NFL radio last week with Solomon Wilcots and Bill Polian, and they asked him about Cam Jordan and whether or not they could get a deal done. He's entering the last year of his contract. What does that look like? And Mickey Loomis said he's going to be able to play for us for as long as he wants to and as long as he can. Then when his time comes, his name will be up in that Ring of Honor and Hall of Fame and all those other accolades that come with a player of his stature. And so when I hear Mickey Loomis say Hall of Fame with Cam Jordan, I went, oh, wait, is that a thing? Because what I like to do with Hall of Fame, regardless of the sport, whenever I hear a name, I should be able to say yes or no. I don't want to pour through the stats page to try to figure it out. I'd like to just, since now I'm watching the career, see it all, and then go yes or no. That's what it feels like the Hall of Fame should be. And when I hear Cam Jordan, I don't immediately think yes. That had not dawned on me. Saints Ring of Honor, abso-freaking-lutely. No doubt about it. One of the best defensive players in the history of the team. No question. But that's a different story than the Hall of Fame. So my gut reaction is to say no. So now I just have to go to the stats. And the stats might tell another story. Cam Jordan's number 32 all time. He's got 115 and a half sacks. That is, in fact, one more than J.J. Watt. One more than J.J. Watt. Now, J.J. Watt, Defensive Player of the Year in the league multiple times, All-Pro multiple times. Is probably a little more decorated in terms of honors and accolades, but in terms of production, more than J.J. Watt. And the other piece to that is that J.J. Watt was kind of hurt a lot, especially late in his career, and Cam Jordan's basically the Iron Man. He played in 172 straight games until the COVID game got him, which is unfortunate, to say the very least. So if you take out the COVID game, he had played 197 of 198 before he had that eye thing in the Pittsburgh game this year where he got poked in the eye and it broke a bone. And Cam Jordan wanted to play. That's what he does. He shows up to work and he wants to play. But the doctor said, look, man, take it down a notch. You're not playing. I know you got this streak. I know you're the Iron Man. I know you're out there and available every single Sunday, but we're not playing through a fractured eye bone. Okay? So we had to sit for a game. But that's maybe more impressive than having one more sack than J.J. Watt and having 12 more sacks than Aaron Donald. What's more impressive is that he always plays. That is Cam Jordan's greatest attribute, is that he's consistently reliable to show up every Sunday, set the edge, rush the passer, and be the heartbeat of the Saints defense. Some other guys have come and gone. He's been steady and consistent. So I think with 8 Pro Bowls to his name, with 1 All-Pro, and on the Hall of Fame's All-2010s team, there's some consideration there. And he'll certainly be on a ballot. And that's not something I think I would have said as of, 4 hours ago when I started looking at this. I still think he's short. Because, 1 All-Pro, and Pro Bowls are so watered down because guys don't go, and then you name half the league to the Pro Bowl because nobody wants to show up to it anymore. So the 8 Pro Bowls probably don't hold as much weight to me. I'm looking at those All-Pros, and I think you rack 3 or 4 of those up all of a sudden. Now, yeah, you're right there. I think with just 1, I can't quite get to Cam Jordan Hall of Famer. But he's not done yet. And I think his level of production is going to be important to the Saints team as they overhaul that defensive front, which was aging and was not as good last year. And you look at Cam and what he's been the last couple of years, even as he begins to age into his 30s, he's been really productive the last couple of years. He's there every Sunday, and he's rushing the passer at basically a Pro Bowl level. Last year, he made 40 solo tackles, 66 combined stops. He had 8.5 sacks, coming off a 12.5 sack year. That's 21 sacks for the last 2 seasons. Now, I've said this a few times. I would be surprised if Cam Jordan had 21 sacks over the next 2 seasons, but he's basically been a double-digit sack guy most years. His first rookie year, just 1, but then his second year becomes kind of a full-time player, 8 sacks, then 12.5, and he's gone double-digit sacks 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times in his career. He's entering his age 34 season. You figure maybe 3 more years. Is that too much, getting up to 37? All of a sudden, you throw another 20 sacks on there in 3 years, which would be nice. Now, all of a sudden, you've got 135 sacks for your career. Okay, now we can really start having the conversation. And I just had not considered that whatsoever. 100%. Saints Ring of Honor, put his number up there, all good. Hall of Fame, it's not the Hall of Very Good. The Hall of Fame. The elites, the greatest players to ever play the sport. You throw 20 more sacks more than J.J. Watt on the board, I'm going to have to take that pretty seriously, right? So I think that's something I'll be paying attention to over the next couple of years. Yeah, you want the Saints to win. You want the team to be good. You're not concerned about individual accolades as much. But as Cam Jordan's career starts to wind down here, I think it's interesting to start thinking about him in terms of being in the Hall of Fame. And I'm with Mickey Loomis as far as keeping him around. I just watched my team, the Cubs, allow the heartbeat of their franchise, Anthony Rizzo, who was there through the greatest, just allow him to walk. And I think there's benefit to having veterans who know the team, know the organization, are first class in representing it and affecting it positively every single day, which he does. There's benefit to that. And you bring in a first-round draft choice like Brian Brzee, and he's got an example to follow. Brian Brzee ought to be attached to Cam Jordan's hip every second Jordan is in that facility. You want to learn how to play on the defensive front, have a long career, be a positive influence on the team, be a productive player. There aren't many better examples of that in the league. And I think that's really, really important. So I love that the Saints are going to prioritize that. They're not just looking to cut bait, move on. Now, if the guy, is a stiff out there and can't play, that's one thing. Obviously, that's not the case with Cam. But I'm thrilled to hear Mickey Loomis say that he can play there just about as long as he wants. Because He's such a positive force on that Saints team, and I think there's a chance he could be an NFL Hall of Famer. But a few more numbers up there. Probably not going to be an all-pro at this point, so we're going to have to accumulate some sacks. I'll be paying attention to that as the fall rolls on. All right, quick check-in on LSU and Oregon State, which, of course, my video crashed, so we'll get you a check on that after we get back. When we come back, I want to go through the college baseball bracket and let you know kind of where things stand in regionals across the country. No, in fact, I'm not going to do that. That is in the hour 2. We just added Matthew Bruni at the beginning of the bottom of this hour. So we'll have Matthew Bruni coming on. Haley Van Lith, who's going to be a star here at LSU, represented Team USA over the weekend in a 3-on-3 tournament, and it went very, very well. I'll let Matthew explain kind of what it was and just what she brings and how good this LSU Lady Tiger basketball team may be this fall. Matthew Bruni from On 3 coming up next on the Hunt Palmer Show.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
LWCC is Louisiana loyal. They're elevating and celebrating champions of Louisiana, and Acadian Company certainly is a champion of Louisiana. Acadian was founded in 1971 by a duo that recognized there was a need for local emergency and medical support, so they quickly established themselves as an early industry trailblazer. And you know Acadian from their ambulance services, and you see them in the community a lot. What you may not know is they've got some unbelievable philanthropic programs that they administer, and one of them is Hometown Heroes. They partner with local high schools, and they train and prepare students for a career as a licensed EMT, and that does a couple things. One, it provides a career for a young person in our state and keeps them in our state, and two, it makes a difference in people's lives. They're saving lives daily as EMT technicians. Acadian Company's so much more than just an ambulance service. They are truly a champion of Louisiana. If you know a champion of Louisiana, we want to tell their story. Go to lwcc.com/champions and check out the champions we've told you about, but nominate a champion of Louisiana so that we can tell their story. LWCC is Louisiana loyal.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Bayou Ford has $15,000 off plus 0.9% APR for 60 months on all new 22 Ford F-150 SCA trucks and incredible deals on all remaining 2022 inventory, all with Bayou's 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Hey, it's Matt Musso. Join me Monday through Friday for your daily update on LSU baseball with Musso at the Box, presented by New Orleans Flooring, wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, Google, and check out New Orleans Flooring. 2 locations, Metairie and Prairieville, or NOLAFlooring.com.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good look.
On Tuesday's OTB, did LSU manage to punch their ticket into Super Regionals? Are we all crying? Plus, we continue to count down to football season. Little Saints and Tigers. And Nick Underhill talks black and gold. Off the bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hearing that promo from T-Bob right there where he says the countdown to football season, it dawns on me that we are dangerously close, potentially just hours away from someone texting me or tweeting, "Oh, it's football season." Oh my gosh. When that happens right after the baseball season ends, that is not my favorite guy. In fact, when I become president, people that say it's now football season right after the baseball team loses will be jailed. You will be handcuffed, placed in the back of the cop car. You will be jailed for that. That is something we can get signed real quick. Executive order. Hopefully it's not today. Matthew Bruni from the Bengal Tiger joins us on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Matthew, you're not going to be that guy, are you? You're not going to text me it's football season when baseball team loses?
No, I would not do that. When you started ranting, I was like, should I leave? Is this safe? Should I go come back another time?
No, and look, it could be just me and you talking here. There may not be anybody listening. That's always a possibility when we're broadcasting during an LSU baseball game, specifically a regional game. But I do want to talk about a few things. So appreciate you joining us. Haley Van Lith did something really cool over the weekend. Of course, she was at Louisville, an All-American, and is now transferred into LSU as a guard on Kim Mulkey's next basketball team. But what was she taking place in over the weekend?
Yeah, so she was in the FIBA 3x3 World Cup, which is something she's played in before. She's played in various 3-on-3 stuff. She seems to really like those settings because, you can kind of play a little bit more one-on-one type stuff, and she's an awesome scorer. So, but yeah, the World Cup, obviously, it's a big deal. I mean, she's playing against grown women that are, 28 years, 30 years old from around the world. The U.S. hasn't won a gold in that since 2014, and so for her and a couple other, there's a couple of young players, but then there's some vets too. For her to kind of lead that team to win gold in Vienna over the past 2 weeks is a really impressive feat.
So I don't know how much you know about this, and if you don't, just tell me. But I know like Dylan Cruz plays for Team USA, or Alex Bregman plays for Team USA. They kind of get picked for that team and qualified for it. How does one get onto Team USA for something like this?
So I don't know the full details, but what I do know from at least the men's side and how it usually works is they usually have a pool that they invite out to camps, and they pick from that group to, obviously to make the team for whether it's 5-on-5 or 3-on-3 and so on and so forth. And I'm sure with Van Lith, like I said, she's done 3-on-3 stuff before. I think this is actually her her first gold medal at this level, but she played some junior stuff with 3-on-3 before. So yeah, I'm sure she is antsy to get on a 3-on-3 team, and they knew that.
She's a heck of a player. So she decides to come to LSU. In your opinion, in kind of following this stuff, we're all a little bit new to this women's basketball scene because LSU kind of fell asleep there for a decade. But how big a deal, obviously winning a national championship and Kim Mulkey and that whole deal, but the fact that LSU's women's basketball team is just getting an absurd amount of publicity on the NIL side and kind of the celebrity portion of all this, which is new too. How big a deal was that for Haley Van Lith and picking where she was going to go?
Oh, I think it has to play a significant role, even though obviously she was on a stage at Louisville where people knew of her. I think we see it where LSU players right now have taken it to a different level with the marketing that you can have at this. I mean, I was watching the finals last night, and sure enough, Angel Reese on a Starry commercial on national TV. I'm like, it is a different level here. So make no mistake, it is definitely a recruiting pitch, as we all know it is in football. I mean, it's definitely in women's basketball when LSU is head and shoulders above everybody else in the country in this NIL market and just player empowerment.
So tell me how she fits into this roster as they move into the fall. I know Alexis Morris moves on as the point guard. Where does Haley Van Lith fit in?
Yeah, so it's an interesting kind of debate I guess we've had on our board. A lot of people obviously want to see her step in and start at point guard. A lot of last year she played the shooting guard role at times. She's such an elite scorer. Me personally, I think I want her to start off the ball. I want them to start Kateri Poole at the point guard spot. But either way, with so much talent around her, she's going to be able to just have the floor kind of open up and have a lot of options there. So I can see it going either way, but she's definitely be one of the primary ball handlers for this team.
Where does Michaela Williams fit into all of that? Because usually you've got a player that highly thought of, they come in and they're immediately a starter and an impact piece. But unless she's got a lot of players back from a national championship team.
Yeah, it's incredible because on any other team in the country, I think she's a lock for sure starter. It's probably 50-50 right now. We'll see how she does in fall and obviously the practices once they get going and stuff. Like I said, to me, I would probably start Kateri Poole alongside Van Lith as your backcourt, but a lot of people want it to be Van Lith and Michaela Williams, which doesn't sound too bad to me. That is an elite backcourt as far as shooting goes. So I think even if she doesn't start, she'll be the first player off the bench. If she does come off the bench, I expect them to just give her a complete green light, and that would be really exciting because she's an elite scorer.
Now, this is kind of a crazy question to ask of a team that just lost 2 games and won the national championship, but how much better does this roster look than last year's?
On paper, I think it is. I'm not going to say it's a lot better, but feels better, and it feels more diverse, I guess. There's more variety. There's more variance in this team and in the ways they can win games. Last year, while they could win games with their shooting, they usually didn't, right? They were a very average, very pedestrian three-point shooting team. So barring the national championship, most of the time they weren't shooting 40+% from three. With that being said, this year they can win games, I think, on the defensive end. They can win it with their shooting. They can win it with Angel Reese having 30 and 20s. Anissa Morrow putting up 30. I mean, there's a lot of different ways they can attack it. I just think offensively it's going to be a very, very different team. It's going to be a different level. They're going to be, if not the best offense in the country, maybe second to UConn. I mean, Iowa as well, but, they're going to be one of the best in the country.
Who do you think will lead them in scoring if you had to guess today?
That is a really good question. I thought about that, but if I had to guess today, I'm gonna stick with Angel Reese because I think she can get the most shots at the rim, and she offensive rebounds well enough to where I think she's guaranteed to get her 20. She averaged 24 a game last year. I think she'll put up 21, 22 a game. I think that'll get it done.
He is Matthew Bruni, part of the Bengal Tiger over there on 3. Shea Dixon going to join us in about 20 minutes to talk recruiting. Matthew, thanks for the time. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Hunt. Headed to the bottom of the third over there.
I'm looking at it. Tommy White swinging at pitches in his face again, but there we go. Have a good one, man.
See ya.
That's Matthew Bruni, part of the Bengal Tiger over there on 3. They do a great job at covering recruiting and covering basketball, baseball, women's basketball. They're all over it, all over the place at On 3. Appreciate Matthew for giving us some time, as I mentioned there. Tommy White striking out at a pitch in his eyes. For some reason, can't lay off the high fastball this weekend, but LSU scoreless through 3. Riley Cooper has set down the Beavers in the first 2 innings, and they will head to the bottom of the 3rd over at Alec Box Stadium in a 0-0 game. Of course, LSU looking to advance to the Super Regional round with 1 win today. Oregon State going to have to win a couple of games. I have no update on what the weather is going to look like here, but they're going to continue to play until they tell them they can't. So I know there was some lightning apparently detected like 10 or 11 miles away from the box about 20 minutes before first pitch. I think it's got to be within that 8-mile radius deal. So they're okay right now, but we'll see. You never know. Those summer showers here in South Louisiana, they could pull them off the field at any second. So we'll keep you updated as we can. If you want to listen to the game between LSU and Oregon State, you can do so on our sister station, Eagle 98.1. Come back and close out hour number 1 before we get to Shea Dixon. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
This is Hunt Palmer. Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
The importance of doing this fortified program and offering it to people down here is, number one, the only real chance you're going to get to do this is when you put on a new roof or build new. And through companies like HUDCO, who's kind of leading the way in this thing, it's going to offer the customers a huge advantage in the insurance market and the price of their insurance.
You know, we're not looking to make a fortune off fortifying. We're trying to give you a better product than our competitor at the moment. I'm trying to do something that he can. I'm trying to give you something better. So a lot of these insurance shops, you're getting a re-roof, you're only paying your deductible. Let's sit down and talk about the fortified and let's see what it does to your insurance premium. You're getting a steal.
Yeah.
You're getting a brand new roof and a fortified certificate for your deductible, essentially. I think we're rocking and rolling.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Musso, join us for Monday's AFR presented by Relief Windows. Matt is back from vacation. We're recapping the Baton Rouge Regional, and the Saints hit the field for the final week of OTAs. It's Monday's AFR, 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Florida Gators moving on to the Super Regionals. They are the first final of the day. They take care of Texas Tech 6-0 the final from Gainesville. Florida wins the Gainesville Regional after losing the Marble game back on Saturday. So big win for Kevin O'Sullivan's program. So they're moving on, and they'll take on South Carolina. So certainly an SEC team headed to Omaha, one of those two. Remember, South Carolina swept Florida earlier this year. Got a story that I wanted to pass along here that I just found fascinating in the world of golf. Yesterday, Victor Hovland won the Memorial. It's Jack Nicklaus's tournament. Big deal. Finishes up, does the press conference with Jack. By the way, collects a handsome payday to the tune of $3.6 million. And so that's a big day for Victor Hovland. Go out there, win a huge tournament, third win on tour, and clear $3.6 million. So what does he do today? Celebrate, go on a bender, head out on the yacht, fly to the next tournament. What do you do after you win the tournament on the PGA Tour? Well, obviously, you drive down the road to the U.S. Open qualifier. He doesn't need to qualify. He's in. But his college teammate is not in. He's got to qualify. So today, Victor Hovland is caddying for his college teammate, Zach Boshow. Literally. And this is not like hop in the cart and get the rangefinder. The U.S. Open qualifier, this is the last stage, is called the longest day in golf. It's 36 holes, and so many qualify for the U.S. Open. So Victor Hovland, the day after winning almost $4 million, is grabbing a heavy golf bag and looping for his college buddy trying to make it. That is not the way that I would be celebrating my win at the Memorial. I've got some good buddies, and I hope they qualify for the U.S. Open. It's not good news for them if they're all terrible at golf, but I don't think I'm carrying a bag for 36 holes the day after winning on the PGA Tour, an elevated event. But good on Victor Hovland. That's why so many people in the sport love him, and I want to know how that conversation went. Zach Boshow advances through sectionals. He's going to get to the final stage of qualifying. Like, does Victor call him up and be like, "Hey, man, Memorial's that weekend. I'll come over on Monday and caddy for you," not knowing he's going to win? Does Boshow have the stones to like call Victor and be like, "Hey, man, I know you're playing, but can you come Monday and carry my bag for me while I try to post a couple of 2-unders?" I want to know how that conversation started. But in the end, Victor's out there looping for his buddy, which I think is hilarious. There's your story from the world of golf. We'll switch back over to baseball here. I'm glued to these mock drafts for Major League Baseball draft because obviously LSU is going to be heavily featured in them with what most people believe will be the top 2 picks in the draft. And Kylie McDaniel covers the draft for ESPN and does a really good job of it. And so I checked his mock, and the first thing I scroll down to is the Pirates pick. It says Max Clark, center fielder, Franklin Community High School in Indiana. What? What about Cruz? What about Skeens? Max Clark? The heck is that? And Kylie McDaniel clarifies in the blurb. He says, "Now, I still think Cruz at number 1 is the most likely option, but my previous mini mock outlines how I think that would go. Cruz, Skeens, and then Florida's Wyatt Langford, Walker Jenkins, and Clark in that order." So he says, so I wanted to use this mock to outline what I think is the second most likely outcome and lean into the chaotic vibe I'm getting from my conversations with league decision makers. So he's saying, I still think it's going to be Cruz 1. I still think it's going to be Skeens 2. I think Pittsburgh takes Cruz. I think Washington takes Skeens. That's what I think is going to happen. But here's another one that's possible based on some conversation. It's basically the gist of this. And it has Max Clark going number 1 to the Pirates. It has the second selection of the Nationals being Dylan Cruz. Then it's got Wyatt Langford at 3. The Rangers taking Walker Jenkins, the high school right fielder. And then Skeens going to 5 with Minnesota. And it bears mentioning that this is not like the NFL draft. This is not like the NBA draft. you're taking best player available or best fit for your team in those two drafts at the top. In Major League Baseball, finances matter. And if you can significantly save money on your first round pick, you can dump it back into the draft somewhere else. So if the Pirates think they can land Clark for $1.3 million less than Cruz, they can come back and take somebody later in the draft and throw a bunch of money at him. We saw it last year. The Orioles saved a ton of cash by taking Jackson Holliday, who was not thought to be near the top of the draft. But they used it to go back and sign some guys, including Carter Young, who they took late in the draft, I think the 19th round in a 20-round draft, and they threw way over slot at him and got him to come. So in this deal, where it's not like drafting your franchise quarterback in football, in this deal, if you can go get 2 lottery tickets instead of just the one as a prospect, maybe that's the right way to go. So we've been sitting here cheerleading all spring about, top 2 picks in the draft, LSU, Cruz 1, Skeens 1, Cruz 2, Skeens 2. And the reality is that could happen. It's borderline likely to happen. But if you start to make moves based on finances and you think you can get this high school player more cheaply than you can get Cruz or Skeens, and that sets you up for maybe to dump more money on your second-round pick or dump more money on your third-round pick because there are some guys falling who are asking for more money and it's not there at slot, but you've got now over slot that you've saved, then you may be able to grab a couple extra lottery tickets. So again, Kylie McDaniel says, in his opinion, Cruz will go 1 to the Pirates and Skeens will go 2 to the Nationals. But maybe not. And let me tell you, as a Cubs fan who's in the Pirates division, I would really like it if the Pirates passed on Dylan Cruz and Paul Skeens, because I don't really want to see those guys a bunch. And I would if they showed up. Now, they've gone away from the totally unbalanced schedule in the Major League Baseball where you play your division far more than everybody else, and now it's a little bit more equitable. But I'm still a little bit dreading the Pirates taking Dylan Cruz and me having to watch him play against the Cubs because, 1, he's really good, and 2, I don't want to pull against him because I like the guy. He's been an unbelievable player at LSU and a great guy in the Baton Rouge community. So I'm just fine rooting like hell against Max Clark. I don't know much about Max Clark, but what I know is he's not Dylan Cruz, and he doesn't play for LSU. And when you get called up by the Pirates, eventually you become a good player, they trade you. Ask Garrett Cole or Andrew McCutchen or any of those guys that became really good players for Pittsburgh. They're like, oh, we can get something for him? Hey, let's go. Trade him off. Hopefully that's not Dylan's fate. But that would be kind of the scenario that would play out that would take Cruz and or Skeens off that number 1 pick. And I thought that was interesting. We'll get into the draft a ton once this season comes to a close. And we'll see. LSU doesn't have quite the signing class they did last year in terms of dodging bullets in the draft. It's a little bit more. It's not as top heavy as it was last year. So, but that's a discussion for another day. Riley Cooper dances out of some big trouble in the bottom of the 3rd inning. I have no idea how he did it because I was looking at my screen to get draft notes and not at the game. But he got out of it with no runs being scored. So they play on in the top of the 4th over at the box. LSU and Oregon State. Just what we all expected, huh? A pitcher's duel. When these teams have no pitching left, no starters left, send 2 guys out of the back end of the bullpen and see what they can do, and they're out there throwing up zeros, just as we all suspected, huh? Well, LSU and Oregon State, if you're just jumping in your car and hearing me, you can listen to LSU and Oregon State over on our sister station, Eagle 98.1. But we still have a show to do, and we've still got some stuff to get to in the second hour. We're going to get you caught up on all the goings-on in college baseball and regional play, and we're also going to talk to Shea Dixon about some LSU recruiting coming up at the top of hour number 2 in 5 minutes. They had a huge weekend in terms of offensive defensive lineman camp and some 5-star visitors, some official visitors I know that were on campus notice. So Shea's going to get us caught up on that. It's something that we start to turn our eye to here in the summer, but our calendars are all screwed up because of transfer portal and dead periods and early signing periods and all that kind of stuff. It's never the same as it always was, but Shea is awesome and keeps up with it and is now back from Europe, so he's due on the radio. So we'll chat with Shea coming up here at 2 o'clock. If you missed any of hour number 1, you can catch it on demand, 1045ESPN.com's on-demand tab. All our shows listed right there. You got Off the Bench, you got Live at Lunch, you got the Hunt Palmer Show, you got After Further Review. Catch it all on demand at 1045ESPN.com. You can also find us on Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify, or on YouTube. Invite you to check out all of our stuff on demand whenever you can. We talked about Cam Jordan and whether or not he's a Hall of Famer. That'll go on our Hunt on Saints YouTube page. I want you to subscribe to that, Hunt on Saints. It's over there on YouTube. All of our Saints football content will head your way. Hunt on LSU. All your LSU football content will head your way. Matthew Bruni joined us in the first hour talking Haley Van Lith and Team USA as well, so appreciate him for doing so. We'll pause for SportsCenter. I'll watch a little bit of baseball, and then we'll chat with Shea Dixon from the Bengal Tiger part of On 3. Still nothing from the box. This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
I drove myself to the ER, had heart surgery, and drove myself home 24 hours later, feeling fine. Starting running again after the procedure, I'm getting excited thinking about it. I had no pain, nothing. I felt great. And right then and there, I was like, oh my God, I'm back. I'm back. It's just amazing.
Oshner Health. Long live you.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $20,000 off new 22 Ram 1500 SCA trucks and incredible deals on all remaining 2022 inventory, all with Bayou's 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Hello, Samantha, dear, I hope you're feeling fine. And it won't be long until I'm with you all the time. But until then, I spend my money up right down on my last dime. Come home, live Baton Rouge. I'm ready, what you put me on through. Gotta send my love down to
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all of that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Hey, it's Matt Musso. Join me Monday through Friday for your daily update on LSU baseball with Musso at the Box, presented by New Orleans Flooring, wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, Google, and check out New Orleans Flooring. 2 locations, Metairie and Prairieville, or NOLAFlooring.com.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Christine Lisi. ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski is reporting the Celtics hiring Sam Cassell as an assistant coach on Joe Mazzulla's staff. Celtics president Brad Stevens said last week he wanted to hire a veteran assistant to that staff. Cassell has been an assistant on Doc Rivers' staff with the 76ers and the Clippers. Nuggets looking to regroup after the Game 2 loss in the NBA Finals to the Heat. Denver last night, lack of discipline, poor defensive effort in the fourth quarter, wasted a 41-point performance from Nikola Jokic. Nuggets and Heat tied 1-1 with the finals on to Miami for Game 3. ESPN NBA analyst Kirk Goldsberry.
The Nuggets need more from Michael Porter Jr. They need more from Jamal Murray. And if they lose this series, ultimately it's going to be a letdown from players not named Nikola Jokic. I think he's been fantastic in almost every playoff game.
Kirk Goldsberry on Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max. Michael Vick, Larry Fitzgerald, Terrell Suggs among the former players on the 2024 College Football Hall of Fame ballot. The Ducks hired veteran NHL assistant and AHL head coach Greg Conan as their new coach. Coco Gauff, straight sets win today, on to a third straight French Open quarterfinals.
Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. They're close, convenient, and have the parts you need fast, along with excellent customer service from professional parts people you can trust. Stop by your local O'Reilly Auto Parts today or visit O'ReillyAuto.com.
Now, Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Holding down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour number 2 on a Monday. Hunt Palmer Show, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Tigers 2, Oregon State nothing, as Oregon State goes to the pen for a guy who threw 54 pitches last night. Beavers real thin on arms. LSU trying to punch its ticket to Super Regional weekend. They have a 2-0 advantage early on. Let's head out to the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Shea Dixon going to join us. Hadn't been here for a while because he's been gallivanting around Europe, but he's here now. Shea, how are you?
I'm back, and I'm back at work.
Are you glad to be back and at work?
No.
Yeah.
Well, that was the longest trip we had taken, Emily and I, as a couple, I guess, since we had been together. Beyond our honeymoon, which was probably only 4 or 5 nights. I was gone like 2-something weeks, but I will not soak and revel in it too much because last summer, whenever I was moving from 24/7 to On3, I was off for 3 months. So I'm kind of doing less working than ever right now. I shouldn't brag about it.
What's the best city that you went to in Europe?
Amsterdam was a lot of fun. I mean, and beyond the reasons why people think Amsterdam would be fun, the architecture was unbelievable. It was clean and good weather. But with going across Italy, I'll circle Florence. Florence was cool between all the museums and different architecture they had. They had some nightlife. They had some piano bars. That was a step up from Pat O's for sure. So hung out there a couple of times. A lot of good food, obviously. A lot of beautiful scenery. So I'll go Florence.
I spent an afternoon in Florence, and a lot of it was in this like market where these guys would try to sell you watches like back behind these tents. It was a little bit of a sketchy operation. I didn't end up purchasing any of the watches, but it did look beautiful out there until we had to get back on the boat. But I'm thrilled that you're back, Shea. And let's just talk a little bit of recruiting. I try to do this every time we talk recruiting. Like, I feel like I had the calendar 6, 7, 8, 10 years ago. I knew when Boys in the Boot was going to be. I knew when the Elite Camp was. I knew those were big dates and commitments would flow from those. But that was pre-transfer portal, an early signing period, and it was a different coaching staff and all that. So does the summer still look like that in this recruiting world where it's camps, it's evaluations. You do get a lot of commitments, and you're trying to fill your class up before you get to the season, and you finish it up with the early signing period in January?
Yeah, like the whole makeup of it, as you just described, has changed. The outcome remains largely the same. It's one of those things where this kind of May through the beginning of a senior season, let's say, which is, August, September, you're really focused on making new offers, seeing kids in person, getting them onto campus, and obviously landing commitments. And all that sort of remained the same. It's just that all the steps to get there have been shuffled up. I mean, we've thrown the transfer portal windows into this. They've expanded the recruiting calendar more than ever, and now kids are taking official visits as high school juniors, which beyond a few years ago, it never happened, in the modern era of college football. So because of how much they've opened it up, it's turned into every weekend you've got kids on campus, whether official visitors, which means they're, the school pays for it, or unofficial visitors who they come down on their own dime and hang out and meet with the staff. And during spring ball, you were out there every practice. There would be recruits there. So it has completely turned in to a 365 operation in terms of recruiting, which 5 years ago, and with no transfer portal, there were many months where just not a lot was going on.
All right, offensive line, defensive lineman camp over the weekend. Is that something that Les and O did, or is that something that Brian Kelly's brought in, and what were the kind of big fallouts from that?
Yeah, they've done an O-line, D-line camp for as long as I've been covering it, and it's pretty commonplace at all the schools. So you'll have skills camps where, your quarterbacks and receivers and corners and linebackers, all those guys, running backs are out there, but it's almost like a 7-on-7 setting. So they also build in all these O-line, D-line camps, and they'll have a number of camps this month. This was just the first one. It was last Friday. And I think the goal for them, because remember, too, because you can take official visits as juniors and those guys are rising seniors, a lot of these kids are making official visits right now. So they were balancing that, an official visitor weekend, with also hosting a camp on Friday before a lot of those guys arrived. And I think their goal was to get a really good feel for the future. And they made a number of new offers. I know that 5 total offers went out from the O-line, D-line camp. Only one to a kid who's a rising senior. The rest are kind of building towards the future. And also, at the same time, they had a Louisiana offer go out to Jalen Chapman, who is over at Warren Easton, and he had won a starting job there, which is a pretty good school if you're playing as a true freshman, and even more so as an offensive tackle. So they got him to campus, worked him out, and then Frank Wilson made that offer, and I think we're seeing kind of a continued concerted effort to try to lock down Louisiana, and part of that is getting on a lot of these kids early.
I know Jimmy Lindsey, new to the staff on the defensive side, on the defensive line. What have the early reports been in terms of his recruiting acumen?
Yeah, we're seeing him kind of get settled in right now with this 2024 class. I mean, you've got some carryover of guys that you recruited while at South Carolina and now at LSU. But again, at LSU, you're recruiting a lot of Louisiana kids, including Dominic McKinley, who is the number 1 player in the state over at Acadiana. You're recruiting a lot of Texas kids, Mississippi. So I think that first month for him is really about getting a feel for kind of who he likes, who's into LSU. And then we got to see him, work out all these guys in person at O-line, D-line camp. And not the Brad Davis approach. You'll hear Brad Davis from wherever you're standing in the indoor facility. You can hear him.
Yep.
Jimmy Lindsey is a little bit the opposite, kind of quiet, but takes that same approach that Brad Davis does. It's very hands-on, works with every kid. And I found it interesting. When a kid came into camp, and he was probably 6'4", let's say 6'6", maybe a little bit taller, 240 pounds. I thought, I was like, I wonder if there's JUCO kids at this camp too, because often they'll have JUCO kids at high school camps. No, he's in 9th grade. So I asked him his name, and we said, here it is. And I Googled it, and sure enough, he's already got, a handful of SEC offers as a 9th grader in Mississippi. And then he got offered by LSU and Jimmy Lindsey. And kind of the funny part why I tell the story is this kid's blowing up as a national recruit. Well, he told me his very first offer was actually from South Carolina and Jimmy Lindsey. And he said he had just found him randomly calling around, making high school stops before he had really kind of gotten his name out there. And he said that evidently he'd called the high school coach and was like, "Hey, you got any guys?" And he's like, "I got an ninth grader here if you want to take a look." And he watched him and said, "All right, offers in." And since then, the kid's got a ton of SEC offers now. So it seems he's got an eye for talent. If he's already getting on kids who are, just finishing up a freshman year of high school 4 states away.
Does it still look really good for LSU to lock in 8, 9, 10 of the top 10 players in the state for this class?
I think so. And certainly when you look at the rankings, whether it's On 3 or anyone else who's doing rankings, like right now, for instance, on 3, LSU has 5 of the top 10 committed, and the other 5 are all considered to be trending to LSU. Now, there'll be different rankings that ultimately flesh out. But I think in the eye of the staff, the 10 guys they've really circled, and there's about 12, 13 out there that they've offered and pushed for. I mean, they are on track. At this point, we don't see many guys having already committed. In fact, only one to an out-of-state school. That was Jawan Johnson. He's now flipped that commitment to LSU, and it doesn't, at least at this point, we'll see. Bama's not out there leading for a bunch of guys like they were a couple of years ago in that transition period from Orgeron to Kelly. There's not some guys going under the radar that, could end up at a TCU or whatever, and then you come in too late in the game. I think they've done a really good job of making offers. Now we're in camp season, more offers go out, and really getting ahead of what you got to do to lock down the state. So, yes, I think that they still have a shot. They still got the shot at cleaning up in state and really not losing anybody that they had offered and wanted.
You know what the transfer portal has done for me, and you follow it a lot more closely than me, but I would think it would have opened just about everybody's eyes to, is I would have totally lost track of Jarek Bernard-Converse or of Greg Brooks or even of like Osiris Torrance or any of these guys that weren't huge recruits. They're from the state. They went elsewhere. I wouldn't have paid any attention to them ever. And you realize like how deep this state is with guys that can really play. And they've gone elsewhere, and now a lot of them circle back and come back to LSU. That has opened my eyes to, LSU's trying to get these like top 10 guys, but the group from 11 to 40, 60 can still play.
Oh, absolutely. You see it. Per capita, this is some great tools that On3 has. You can mess around on the website. There's an NFL draft section that then breaks it down. And per capita, Louisiana, and I think it was like a blue chip talent ratio to per capita, and it's either LSU or Mississippi every year for the past decade. And it's Louisiana, and it's typically Louisiana. We'll have, they're averaging 12 kids or so, getting drafted each cycle. There's tons of kids from all over the state that end up being good. And the thing you have to remember now, Hunt, as a coach, and you just said it, you're recruiting all these guys, even as hard as you are the guys that are committed, and you may not be able to sign them because this kid's good enough to where if he goes to TCU and he plays for a couple of years, we're going to be trying to get him back.
Yeah.
And we don't want to start from nothing, and we're the team that, hey, you never even showed me any love. That's why I went to TCU. It was, we recruited you the whole time. Maybe you didn't get an offer. You are already solid to another school, but we recruited you. And I think that's where we're going to see a lot of teams win in the portal down the road is how good were you at making relationships with guys and not just sort of breezing right through the guys that you didn't think you were going to take at the time.
Glad you're back, Shady. We'll talk soon. Thanks, man.
I appreciate it, Matt.
He is Shea Dixon on 3, the Bengal Tiger. Matthew Bruni is with us in the first hour. Shea is there, Billy Embody and the crew. Even I write a few baseball things from time to time over there at On 3. And speaking of baseball, Tigers with a 4 spot there in the 4th inning. So they take a 4-0 lead in the ballgame. Riley Cooper back out to work. He has thrown 51 pitches to this point. When we come back, I'm just going to run around the country in terms of the regionals and what we've seen, what we haven't, what super regionals are set, which ones aren't. We'll just kind of get an all-encompassing look at the weekend that was in college baseball. That's next on the Hunt Palmer Show.
This is Hunt Palmer. In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Turn my music high, 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 high. Yeah. You don't know what you're doing. Sure I do. I'm from the streets where the hood can swallow on me. Bullets will follow on me. There's so much that you can run the slalom. The cops comb this top to bottom. They say that we are prone to violence, but it's home sweet home. With personalities clash and chrome meets chrome. Prices up and down like it's Wall Street.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
All right, let's say ah.
Where'd my spotlight go?
Super weird, but we can take care of it.
Get in and get better at Patient Plus.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you.
On Tuesday's OTB, did LSU manage to punch their ticket into Super Regionals? Are we all crying? Plus, we continue to count down to football season, little Saints and Tigers. And Nick Underhill talks black and gold. Off the bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
All right, let's go around the country in college baseball regional weekend. I'm going to hit every site. We'll just knock them all out. Kind of my big takeaways. Wake Forest is the 1 overall seed. My heavens, did they put on a show in Winston-Salem. 48-7 over 3 games. Now, it helps when the 4 seed, who has the lowest RPI in the entire tournament, shows up in Championship Sunday. But they beat them 12-0 on Friday. They crushed Maryland 21-6. Blocked an extra point, I guess, on Saturday. And they beat George Mason 15-1 on Sunday. 48-7, the 3 scores for Wake. They are really, really good. Florida has punched its ticket to the Super Regional round. Texas Tech won the marble game against Brandon Sproat in Florida on Saturday, but the Gators came back and won 3 straight. They beat UConn, and then showed up and beat Texas Tech last night. And again today, they are moving on to play South Carolina in the Supers. Arkansas is the number 3 seed. They got hammered in the marble game of that regional. It was 20-5 in the marble game. TCU beat them. Hagen Smith in that game, one of the best pitchers in the country. We saw him. He was striking everybody out for LSU and Hoover. He threw 1 inning and gave up 8 earned. Just one of those, you throw your hands up. I don't know. One of the best pitchers in the country. You send him out there in the marble game. 8 earned runs in 1 inning, gave up a grand slam. So they would play 2 today if Arkansas could win game 1. They are underway up in Fayetteville. Clemson was the 4 seed. By now, you're well aware of that story. Clemson in Tennessee played one of the greatest baseball games I have ever seen on Saturday. I was over at Walk-Ons. There was a huge crowd over there. We were hopefully waiting to go inside the box to watch LSU play. And, of course, that did not happen on Saturday. But we're watching on these big screens that Walk-Ons had wheeled out into the parking lot. And, I mean, it's just the drama. First of all, Caden Grice is just a stud for Clemson. Left-hander, the breaking ball is just phenomenal. He goes 8 2/3 innings in that game. Dolander was really, really good himself. They go to Burns, and Clemson's got a lead. And Zane Denton, with 2 outs in the 9th, hits a 3-run homer to go up 5-4. And you think, well, that's going to be it. And then Clemson comes back and ties the game, sends it to extras. Clemson, against Chase Burns, has the bases loaded and nobody out. And Clemson couldn't push the run across to win it. Couldn't push the run across to win the game. And it was just back and forth, the drama. And what I was saying entering the week is that if you're Clemson and you've won 1,000,000 games in a row like they had, and you get the number 4 national seed, to get Tennessee as your 2 seed is so brutal. And it is brutal because of what you saw on Saturday. On Saturday's game, you get Chase Dolander, who they didn't have to throw on Friday. You get Chase Burns, some of the best stuff in college baseball. And then you get Halverson, who's their best reliever, throwing 97 miles an hour. Those are the 3 pitchers they saw in a marble game from the 2 seed. They couldn't handle it, and Clemson came out lifeless the next day, and Charlotte beat them, and Tennessee punches a fairly easy trip on Sunday night into the Super Regional, so they now hold that 4 seed spot due the Vols. LSU's the 5 seed. You know what's going on there. Tigers and Oregon State. And LSU is just absolutely throwing up all over itself right now. Kicking ground balls in the infield, pass balls. Just awful baseball by LSU. But I digress. Let's go to Vanderbilt, who is the 6th seed. They lost a 2-1 game to Vanderbilt after getting just beat in the marble game by Oregon. So Vandy, that offense, which had been a bit of an issue all year, was the biggest issue in their final game, where they were only able to push 1 runner across the board against Xavier 3 days into the weekend. That's just an offense that had its issues all year long. So Vanderbilt out. It'll be Oregon representing that 6th seed. Virginia is the 7th seed. They had a great marble game, a 2-1 game against East Carolina that was really, really good. And then Virginia beat East Carolina 8-3 to win the regional. Cliff Godwin just runs a great program there at East Carolina. They're perennially an NCAA tournament team. They have been a host. They have been a top 8, and they just cannot find a way to kick that door down and get to Omaha. They'll have to wait another 12 months as Virginia beats East Carolina. They advance to the Super Regional. Stanford and Texas A&M will play 1 game to decide it today. Stanford lost that marble game to Texas A&M on Saturday night, and then came back and beat Texas A&M yesterday. So they forced a winner-take-all game this evening in Palo Alto. I will be locked in on that one tonight. Miami is the 9 seed. They hosted regional with Texas and Louisiana Lafayette, and Texas wins the regional. They're going to be a handful. How about this? Look, Lucas Gordon shut down ULL over 7 innings in the first game for Texas in the 2-3 game. They gave the ball to LeBaron Johnson in the marble game. You remember LeBaron Johnson if you're watching LSU closely. He's the guy who started the Tuesday night game in Austin with LSU. The 2 starters that night were Thatcher Hurd and LeBaron Johnson, and both guys were brilliant in the regional. LeBaron Johnson, complete game, 1-run performance against Miami for the Longhorns. They will be the 9 seed moving forward. Coastal Carolina lost to Rider on Friday in the 1-4 game. That's your 10 seed. But they've battled back to face Duke today. The winner's going to advance. So Coastal and Duke will play 1 game for all the marbles. Coastal That's just a tough punch to lose to Ryder, but then they've come back and battled it. It reminds me of a few years ago, Louisiana Lafayette lost to Jackson State on Friday, and they battled their way all the way through the regional, ended up winning it there. So we'll see if Coastal can do the same thing. They are the 10 seed. Oklahoma State, your 11 seed, they went 2 in Q. 2 in barbecue for the Pokes. Oral Roberts, the 4 seed, went 3-0 in the regional. They're moving on. They will play Oregon in a super. That's nuts that the 4 seed would sweep right through a regional. You don't see that very often. Kentucky, that's the 12 seed. That's who LSU, the 5, is paired with. They've scored 26 runs in their last 2 wins. They got 1 game left against Indiana. Winner takes it all. After Kentucky lost the marble game to Indiana, they've been bashing the ball all over the place. And that offense, it's not a modern offense, but at times it's been very good. It was really good in Baton Rouge when they came here, and so obviously they're going to have to lean on that against Indiana. The winner of that super will play the winner of Oregon State and LSU. The 13 seed is Auburn. They went 2 in Q as well. How about that on Friday night? I'm watching Army and Auburn, and Army bunts for 3 consecutive singles. 2 of them squeezes. Nuts. Just getting small balled to death over there on the plains. Southern Miss smoked Penn last night, so they'll play one more to decide the winner. And Tanner Hall is going to get the ball today. Already has gotten the ball today. I don't know what the score is in that game. But Tanner Hall, if you'll remember last year, Tanner Hall pitched the Friday game for Southern Miss against Army and threw like 109 pitches or whatever. Came back on Monday in LSU and Southern Miss's final game and was tabbed to start that game and did not have his best stuff in that one. LSU knocked him around a little bit. So we'll see how he throws it today. But that'll be Penn and Southern Miss. And if Southern Miss wins that game, they may be able to host a super with Tennessee. We'll see how those bids shake out. The 14 seed is Indiana State. The Sycamores went 3-0. They faced Brody Brecht in the marble game, and he was very, very good. Remember him from Iowa? That's who LSU saw. Throws 100-something miles an hour. Brecht is really, really good, and he threw 7 innings, 2 hits, 2 runs, 8 strikeouts. He was really good, but then Iowa went to the bullpen. They gave up 5 runs, and that's how Indiana State beat them and went 3-0 in the regional. So the 14 seed Indiana State is moving on. South Carolina is the 15 seed. They went 3-0. They outscored Central Connecticut State, NC State, and Campbell 41-11. The Gamecocks looked like one of the best 5 teams in the country when LSU went there at that point in the season. And it all kind of fell apart with injuries and poor play and all that kind of stuff. But they found something this weekend. They were fantastic. And Central Connecticut State, I need to see their conference because they came down to Baton Rouge and for 2 days got beat like 30-something to 2. And then end up cruising through their conference again, which they seem to do every single year. And then they got in the regional and got smashed again. So there must not be a lot of great baseball being played in Central Connecticut State's conference because I've seen them play the SEC for 3 games and they've been outscored about 50-3. So that was the case in South Carolina. And Bama, the 16 seed, maybe one of the stories of the tournament, with their coach being ousted for gambling, wins a regional as a top 16 seed. They were on the ropes on Friday night against Cade Wasan's Nichols Colonels. I'm texting Cade. Nichols has the lead. They lose the lead. Nichols ties the game. Couldn't quite get it done. Bama wins it, and they got through the regional. So we've got a couple of supers that are set. Wake Forest and Alabama will play in a super regional. Florida and South Carolina will play in a super regional. Those 2 are set. Oregon and Oral Roberts will play in a super. Those are set. The others to be determined. Indiana State is waiting on the Arkansas TCU winner. Tennessee is waiting on the Southern Miss Penn winner. Texas is waiting on the Stanford A&M game. So you're either going to get Texas Stanford or Texas A&M, which would be real juicy. Virginia is waiting for the Coastal Duke winner. And then you've got the one that doesn't have any set, which is LSU and Kentucky's regionals, LSU and Oregon State or Kentucky and Indiana. That's a look at what's going on around the country in college baseball. They have played 4 at the box. Nate Ackenhausen comes in and gets a big out. LSU leads at 4-2. Tigers need to add some more runs. I think 1st to 8 may feel pretty good in this one, but we shall see. We got 30 minutes left to go here before we hand the baton to Matt Moscona, who's returned from his vacation. He'll be hosting After Further View later today, so we'll take a timeout. Come back with more. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
One Bath and Closets, onebathandclosets.com. You probably don't think about your closet all that often. Maybe you do, and if you do and it's not good enough, One Bath and Closets is going to help you. But you really could simplify your morning, simplify your life with a customized closets. They can do all kinds of things over at One Bath and Closets. Maybe it's knocking out your whole closet and just restarting. Maybe it's using your space a little bit more efficiently with cubbies and mirrors and baskets and rods and hooks and all that kind of stuff. And maybe it's something, if you've got high ceiling closets, you can store some of the clothes that you don't wear all that often, maybe your winter coats, up high, and they can put a pull down rod in there so you can pull it down when you need to access that rod full of hangers. Something like that. One Bath and Closets can help you with it. And if you tell David Duvall and his team the Hunt Palmer Show sent you to One Bath and Closets, he's going to not charge you for the labor to rip out or install a new closet. Just going to charge you the cost of that unit. Check out the website, onebathandclosets.com. You can see the testimonials. You can request a free consultation, and you can see the great work that they do at One Bath and Closets. It's onebathandclosets.com.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
All right, let's say ah.
Where'd my spotlight go?
Super weird.
Musso, join us for Monday's AFR presented by Relief Windows. Matt is back from vacation. We're recapping the Baton Rouge Regional, and the Saints hit the field for the final week of OTAs. It's Monday's AFR, 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Well, deja vu. The second day in a row, Hayden Travinsky and Cade Veloso have hit back-to-back home runs. I just tweeted out the bench warmers to bombers. These guys were not supposed to be factors on this team, and they are powering LSU through a regional right now. Absolutely unbelievable. those two guys. Tigers lead at 6-2 at this point over Oregon State. They play on in the 5th inning. College Football Hall of Fame ballot is out, and there are some names of local flavor and just some names that are fun to trip down memory lane on, just how great some of these guys were. Brady James is the LSU Tiger on the list, and Brady was the force in that defense, which was basically the team that I grew up on. My hook was set the 97 Florida game. I went to the 95 Independence Bowl, certainly knew that LSU was who I was supposed to pull for. I was 7. I remember Warren Morris's homer, obviously in 96, and knew that, but I was young, 8. And then in 97, at 9 years old, went to the LSU Florida game. I'd been to a couple games before, but I went to that one, and that night, I think, probably changed my life. It just being totally addicted to LSU sports 24 hours a day, probably 97. And so but then you get to like middle school, and then LSU got good, and Brady James was a big piece of that in the early Saban years. He was a first-team All-American in 2002, 3-time All-SEC performer. He was first team in 2001 and 2002. Helped to win the SEC in 2001, the Peach Bowl defensive MVP in 2000, second all-time in LSU history with 418 career tackles. He was awesome. I can still hear Dan Bournet 7-11 on the tackle with he and Trev Falk. And Trev left a year early and Brady stayed, and he was fantastic. One of the best linebackers in the history of the school. You go through the names like Devin White and Kevin Minner. Go back to Brady James would be kind of next on that list, I guess, as you go back chronologically. And if you go back into the 80s, and that's before my time, but I know that there was some really good linebacker play here in Baton Rouge. Brady James, among the best ever, and hopefully gets that recognition and gets elected. But that's my formative years, I guess I should say. Brady James was right in the middle of that LSU defense, and I can just remember him being an absolute stud for the Tigers. But some of these names of guys that you know that are going to get in, you look at the numbers that Larry Fitzgerald put up. He's on this list. He was unanimous first-team All-American in 2003. He was the runner-up for the Heisman Trophy. Scored a touchdown in approximately 567 straight college football games. Big East Offensive Player of the Year. He set 8 conference records and 11 school records in 2 years at Pitt. So I think Larry Fitzgerald's got a pretty good chance to get in. Some Baton Rouge flavor with Warwick Dunn being on the list. Florida State running back in 96. First-team All-American in 95. Third-team All-American. Led Florida State to that national title in 1993. He was All-SEC 3 times and led the league with in scoring in 1995. The only Florida State rusher in history to get more than 1,000 yards 3 consecutive seasons. Work done, obviously, from right here in Baton Rouge. Went to Tallahassee and had a remarkable career there before going on and doing some great things in the NFL. Tim Couch is a name that jumped off the screen at me. They, of course, came down here to Baton Rouge and beat LSU. I remember that game. This is personal story from me, but when they came down with Tim Couch on that team, I was going to get to sit in a suite with my dad and his friend. And I had never, been in any place like that. I've always just been, down in Tiger Stadium. I was like, oh, my gosh, sweet. And I woke up, and I had fever. I was absolutely, just in horrible shape. But even at 10 years old, I knew, if I told my parents that I was sick, I wasn't going to be able to go to the game. That was just not going to be an option. I was going to go to that game. So I just didn't say a word, felt terrible, had fever, chills, the whole lot, and went to the game and got to sit in that suite, and we lost. But it was fun, and I'm glad I did it, but didn't get the result that we were necessarily looking for there. A couple of other names on this list that stuck out to me. Eric Bieniemy at Colorado obviously has now become such a great offensive coordinator and coach, but he was such an awesome player in college. And see the highlights of Eric Bieniemy back in the glory days of Colorado football. He's on this list as well. You figure he's got a great chance to get in. Got a couple of quarterbacks that I don't know if they were necessarily great players, but their teams were great. And Josh Heupel from Oklahoma, and then Ken Dorsey from Miami. I just don't know if I consider those guys Hall of Famers. They were on such great teams, but were they, phenomenal Hall of Fame level players? I don't know necessarily. I would go quite that far. Now, I would make an exception in this list for Kellen Moore, who's on this list. And I think maybe he kind of fits into those guys, not necessarily NFL-type talents, but good players in college. But Kellen Moore, I just thought was a star. Even though their schedule wasn't great and it was a hot point of contention with should Boise State be able to get into BCS or whatever. And, they come and they play Virginia Tech and they played Oregon and they played Georgia. But Kellen Moore, the highest winning percentage in college football history, the lowest career interception percentage at 0.017%, and tied the NCAA record with 4 3,000-yard passing seasons. Would he have done that in the SEC? No. Was he a great player that deserves to be in the Hall of Fame? I think so. So I would put him in for sure. Michael Orr is on this list, and you wonder how much of that is from his play and how much of that is from his star. I would say he's a pretty good player. You go in the first round of the Ravens and you play a long time in the NFL, he was a pretty good player, but he's obviously, his story has created such an amazing, it's a movie. But I was looking at the blurb to see if they would mention The Blind Side, and they did not. What they did mention is that he started 47 straight games and helped running back Ben Jarvis Green Ellis post consecutive 1,000-yard seasons. And I only bring up Ben Jarvis Green Ellis to tell you that is one of the great nicknames in the history of sports. The law firm, Ben Jarvis Green Ellis. That is one of the best nicknames that has ever been bestowed upon anyone. Ron Rivera, I don't even remember him as a player, but he's on this list. 1983 consensus first-team All-American at Cal. Now, of course, a successful NFL coach, but was on this list as well. Alex Smith from Utah, I thought is potentially, he was fourth in the Heisman ballot. Takeo Spikes at Auburn, I would put him in. He was just a menace. 1997 first-team All-American, two-time first-team All-SEC. Led Auburn to the SEC championship game in 97. Peach Bowl defensive MVP. 2-year Auburn defensive MVP. He was a force. He was a force when he got to the NFL. The guy, and now I think he does a really good job on SEC Network. But man, as a player, he was something else. And I think the two guys on this list that I would just slam dunk in the College Football Hall of Fame, Michael Vick, Virginia Tech quarterback. For my money, the most talented quarterback that's ever played football. As far as running, agility, arm strength, like just physical gifts. Michael Vick, number one, and he carried Virginia Tech to a national championship game. He would be on there. And then in the same type of era, Peter Warrick at Florida State was just an absolute stud. Two-time first-team All-American, unanimous in 99, led Florida State to that national championship in the 2000 Sugar Bowl. He was the MVP, first team All-ACC receiver, finishes the league's career all-time leader in receiving, and Florida State record holder for receiving touchdowns. Peter Warrick in college was a problem for the Noles. So we'll see what comes of this College Football Hall of Fame ballot, but just some names I thought, and with the local flair, Brady James and Warrick Dunn. Hopefully those guys will hear their names called. We got one more segment to go before I can park it and watch the end of this baseball game, so let's get that done after this timeout on the Hunt Palmer Show.
This is Hunt Palmer. In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
The importance of doing this fortified program and offering it to people down here is, number one, the only real chance you're going to get to do this is when you put on a new roof or build new. And through companies like HUDCO, who's kind of leading the way in this thing, it's going to offer the customers a huge advantage in the insurance market and the price of their insurance.
We're not looking to make a fortune off fortifying. We're trying to give you a better product than our competitor at the moment. I'm trying to do something that he can. I'm trying to give you something better. So a lot of these insurance shops, you're getting a re-roof, you're only paying your deductible. Let's sit down and talk about the fortified and let's see what it does to your insurance premium. You're getting a steal.
Yeah.
You're getting a brand new roof and a fortified certificate for your deductible, essentially. And I think we're rocking and rolling.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Up on Tuesday's OTB, did LSU manage to punch their ticket into Super Regionals? Are we all crying? Plus, we continue to count down to football season. Little Saints and Tigers, and Nick Underhill talks black and gold. Off the bench, 7 to 10 a.m. 104.5 ESPN.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
All right, they play on in the bottom of the fifth inning. LSU with a 4-run lead on Oregon State. If you're just joining us and weren't watching the game, for the second day in a row, Cade Beloso and Hayden Travinsky go back to back. What a ridiculous story for those guys. All right, we got one more thing to do. Jacob Beck, let's play some Take It or Leave It.
All right. LPGA golfer Rose Zhang won her first career start. She just got out of college.
Yep.
And she was really good there too.
Yeah.
She'll be number one in the world. Take it or leave it.
I'm going to take it. I mean, that's a really high bar, but like she's been the number one amateur in the world for like 3 years. She won at an unbelievable clip at Stanford, and she takes it out there on the LPGA Tour for the first time and wins her first event. I'm not saying she's the best player in the world right now. I think there are a number of better players than her in the world right now, but she's so young and she's so talented. I think that day will come where she will be the number one player in the world. She's had an unbelievable career. And I got to be familiar with her because I follow No Laying Up pretty closely. It's a golf podcast and YouTube channel, and they did a great 30-minute watch on a week in the life of Stanford women's golf, which you don't even really have to be a big golf fan to enjoy it. It talks about the demands of being a college athlete and kind of what goes into all that. And one of the girls, Rachel Heck, who's their number 2 player at Stanford, is also in school to be like a an Air Force pilot or something. She's in the ROTC, and she shoots like 66 all the time. So it's really cool, and Rose was a big part of that. So I'll be following along on that, and I think she will be the best player in the world one day.
The Heat came back and beat the Nuggets in Game 2. The Nuggets are still going to win in 5. Take it or leave it.
Whew, I did say that, didn't I? I was kind of counting on them getting both those games in Denver, so I will leave that. I do not believe they're going to win in 5 and win both games in Miami. That seems like a tall order. It's such a credit to the Heat that we keep counting them out every single week, and they win every single week. It's really amazing. Butler deserves a ton of credit. Adebayo deserves a ton of credit, and Spoelstra is a star. And Denver came out and they punched them in the mouth in Game 1 because they're better and they were fresh and they were at home and they just crushed them. And I did say on the air, like, he'll make some adjustments. They'll figure something out in Game 2. I didn't watch it, but I imagine they did something different. And they're just incredible.
Hosting a show during a regional final. Take it or leave it.
We did this on Regional Friday during a regional game. I'm leaving it. This has been a totally wasted show, in my opinion. I can't imagine there are very many people who are locked into the Hunt Palmer Show today, and for good reason. I'm not even locked into the Hunt Palmer Show right now. I was at a given point in the show. There were some things I wanted to do. The Cam Jordan segment, I was curious with Shea and recruiting. At times during the 2 hours, I've been locked in. Right now, the game's on the TV right there. I'm watching every pitch. I'm just yapping into a microphone, and I just can't imagine there are a lot of people that are locked in on this one. So this one will not be put up for any LAB awards or anything. This was just get through 2 hours while LSU's playing a far more important baseball game than this show is. So I will leave that with authority.
All right, last one here. The NCAA should play Baton Rouge regional games at 9 a.m. Take it or leave it.
We had this discussion last night. I'm taking it. I know that ESPN's not going to do it, but they do it in Hoover, and it's fine. I know that they play, but if we keep playing these games at 4 o'clock in the afternoon in June, like, it's going to rain. There's going to be lightning. There's showers all over the place. We do this song and dance every single year with this ridiculousness. It ends up backing things up. We're inevitably playing until after midnight, which they did again last night. I just think if we would play some games in the morning, we'd have a better chance to get some games in. That's the drier portion of our day. Once you get to 4 o'clock, it's a crapshoot out there. So I think at least don't hold them until 2. Like, play at 11 in the morning then. They played some games at 11 in the morning. You're asking for trouble if you continue to play games starting them at 2 o'clock, and that's when you start your day. That's a disaster in this part of the world in June. Speaking of disaster, LSU simply can't block pitches or catch ground balls. I can't deal with this. Just get this game over with and get to the Super Regional. That I very much would be in favor of. All right, that's it for Take It or Leave It here on this Monday. Reminder, if you are listening to the show and haven't been listening for the last week, we do have a little bit of a shift up in our lineup as of last week. So there is no more Jimmy Ott's Game Time at night. That's no longer part of the station. Jimmy Ott is. He's with Hanny again, and they are live at lunch every day from 11 to 1. The old Sports Today time slot. Jimmy and Charlie right there live at lunch every single day. So our lineup now starts at 7 a.m. with Off the Bench. They go 7 to 10. You got an hour of Greeny there from 10 to 11. Hanny and Ott will pick up live at lunch 11 to 1. I take over 1 to 3. And then Matt drives you home on After Further Review from 3 to 6. And then that is the end of our local programming for the day. So if you haven't heard that, that's a little bit of a change. I also want to ask you all to do me a favor. It would mean the world to me if you would go to YouTube and subscribe to our 2 new channels. You can always get all the full shows that are archived, but we do cut some videos up. Jacob Beck does a great job of cutting up some 10-minute segments and putting them in the places where they need to be. And 2 of those places are Hunt on LSU. That is your LSU football, all football. There's no baseball. There's no basketball. Hunt on LSU, all LSU football right there on YouTube. Also, Hunt on Saints. If you want your Saints content, subscribe to Hunt on Saints, and you'll get it all sent right to your feed as part of that subscription. And it also helps us to get our content in front of as many people as possible, which is ultimately the goal here, to let as many people as possible ingest our content. So that would mean the world to me if you'd go ahead and do that. Let's look back at what we did today. I kind of set the scene for this game with LSU and Oregon State and talked about last night at the top of our show. Mickey Loomis earlier last week said that they'd like to get an extension done with Cam Jordan, and that he's going to be an NFL Hall of Famer. And I just wanted to dive into that a little bit, so I did. You can find that at Hunt on Saints, but it was at 1:15 today. Matthew Bruni of On 3 came on to talk about Haley Van Lith and her run to the 3-on-3 gold medal with Team USA, which I thought was really, really cool. Told a couple of stories at the end of hour number one. Victor Hovland caddying for his buddy a few hours after winning $3.6 million, as well as a look at Kylie McDaniel's draft that does not have Dylan Cruz or Paul Skeens going with the first overall pick, and he told you why, and I told you why back at the end of hour number one. Shea Dixon, always awesome with his time, gave us some recruiting information at 2 o'clock, and then we did some college football Hall of Fame in hour number 2 as well. You can catch all that on demand, 1045ESPN.com, where all our shows are archived. You can catch it on Google Podcasts. You can catch it on Apple Podcasts. You can catch it on Spotify. Wherever you may get your audio, you can catch all of that. Gotten through it all. That'll do it for our show today on this Monday. Catch up on LSU. Nate Ackenhausen just got a punch out there for the Tigers. We go to the 6th inning. LSU with a 4-run lead with 4 innings to play. So if LSU can win this game, they will play next weekend in the Super Regional with the winner of Kentucky and Indiana. That's going on later this afternoon. The only game that is final today, Florida punched its ticket to the Super Regional. They'll play South Carolina. Florida fell into the loser's bracket on Saturday, and their pitching did a phenomenal job to get them all the way back into Monday, and they took care of business, beating Texas Tech. So Florida and South Carolina will play in an all-SEC Super Regional. Tonight, I'll be locked in on A&M and Stanford. Let's go Cardinal. Let's go Cards. Got to put my red on after this LSU game is over. Hopefully, Tigers can get it done, and I can get in Stanford character, because we got to send A&M home for the summer. All right, we'll be back tomorrow, hopefully just reacting to an LSU win and nothing more. But either way, Matt Moscona is back from vacation, and he is about to drive you home from work or from this game on After Further Review. We will see you tomorrow, same time, same place. It is 1 to 3 weekdays right here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.